Yeah. All of it. Yeah. You're not, if you're paying that up front, but you're not, it's again, that way for lunch. There's all kinds of stuff. Okay. I was thinking so. Bad job, that's all I can do. You don't get her.
In about 4 minutes. Take it out.
Okay, stand in front of that hair. I'm gonna steal it from Larry.
Well, yeah,
I'm well.
I don't know what he's got.
yeah. Well, when you go find it.
We were all very.
Are y'all ready now?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
My regular job called.
Yeah.
Where's it at? Oh, it's over here.
And you can get by. Or do you need,
I don't know. I'll-
We might need that.
That's you, right? Share.
It looks like it's me and Larry here.
They should be forward and backward.
Forward, backward, laser pointer in the middle.
There's another one. Share that.
How are y'all gonna do this?
How are we gonna do this?
Let me grab you this.
Do we really need that? I probably do not.
I'll need one to actually, and then if you wanna, and then I'll just pass them by.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you-
we're not. They probably would be.
If you can pull it out if you want, leave it if you want. Do you want to hand the questions out so I can speak real quick?
I sure will.
Just hand it to whoever has a question.
Ready to go?
Yep, ready.
I can click and.
That one on one. They probably have turned off when it's sitting there in front of us till we're ready to.
All right, we'll go ahead and get everything. 8 microphones always get in place. If you can't hear me, holler, and then I'll do better. But, my name is Jerry Salyer, Area Director / District Operation Manager. And my counterpart for the other half of the state is Kim Fisher. I have Candace Stone and Susie Steele here to represent the ASs. And, we brought them here because we actually utilize these two folks if we have a vacancy or as we go through a training process for a new hire, that sort of thing. These are the two that we usually tap to keep everything going and help us out through these. So we're going to run through some really broad-based roles of what the AS provides for the districts. And if you have questions, just please raise your hand. Well, feel free to interrupt and stop me. This is completely informal, and we'll try to work through it best that we can. So again, roles of the administrative specialist. This comes straight out of code. This is what the AS is designated to do. And I'm not one to read slides to everybody, so I think we've already hit on the fact that there's 14 ASs, one for each conservation district. The major role of the AS is the admin side of things. So again, administrative specialist kind of goes hand in hand with the admin role of your Park Conservation District. So the assisting with the board meeting, assisting with agendas, doing your minutes, handling any correspondence, answering phone calls, that sort of thing. And, working with the CFO and the back that you heard from this morning and handling any of the, reporting from the fiscal section, and then also working with your bookkeeper on the district level things. Yeah, the LORs that we've talked about numerous times, we talked about FOIA yesterday. And so, again, we've already covered a lot of the AS role. One thing that I do want to hit on is the fact that the AS, no matter what part of the agency, what part of the district, at some point, these folks are going to touch whatever aspect that we're working on. No matter if it's a letter, a contract, at some point, these individuals, that information crosses their desk. So they are very vital. I mean, Brian mentioned it this morning that it is the interface between the agency and the districts. And that couldn't be stated any clearer or truer that at some point, these folks touch just about everything that goes between us as the agency and then you as the district. So that's very important, and they just consistently field questions, try to keep everything going. We had the lady the other day with open meetings and getting all of that stuff situated. These folks try to keep you in check and in line, try to be there to answer those questions and make sure that as you're conducting your meetings that we don't get off base and we don't do something that has the potential to get somebody in trouble. These folks will actually stand up. And that's also my role and Kim's role. But between us, we will step in. And I know it sounds like we're, trying to be hard to deal with and we're being difficult and that sort of thing. But the ultimate goal is to make sure that we are operating at that higher level and we are not doing things that are going to get somebody in trouble. Because I don't want to get in trouble. Y'all don't want to get in trouble. It's a whole lot easier just to make sure that we're moving through and handling business the way that we're supposed to. Next. Things that the AS is not responsible for. These are things that me and Kim have identified that we've had issues with in the past. District rental equipment. A lot of districts have rental equipment. There's been issues in the past on what their role is with the rental equipment. And then again, it goes back to what I said earlier, the admin side. Yes, they can do the admin side. A lot of districts at one point or another thought that it was their role to turn around and inspect the equipment when it comes back to make sure that it's in operational condition or to go out and grease the equipment. Not so much. They're not mechanics. They're there for admin support. So as you have the district rental equipment, you need to make sure that you have either an individual supervisor or hire an individual outfit. A lot of my districts actually have equipment dealerships and whatnot that they work with. But it's up to y'all to maintain y'all's equipment moving forward. Again, the admin side of it and, even the scheduling and getting the bills to the bookkeeper and all of that good stuff. Yes, that falls in their wheelhouse to do. Completing and double checking your travel and per diem forms. Those are your forms. Don't expect these folks to turn around and fill out your forms. They can assist. We've got a template in place through IT that helps get everything situated. At the same time, it is not their responsibility to make sure that you get paid for your hotel or your mileage and that sort of thing. It's up to y'all to get that information submitted. And they can definitely get it to the bookkeeper so everything will get processed for you. That can be done. But as far as filling it out and making sure that it's correct, not their responsibility. Managing district employees and district grant employees or district crews. So we've had a couple of different scenarios that I wanted to highlight on this. District employees is a district employee. they are not supervising your district employee. Now, that could be, you know, you have part-time outreach individuals, district crew is listed there as well. Those folks are district employees. Not my job to tell you how to do your work with that district employee or what's expected with your district employee. No, it's their job to turn around and supervise that employee. Not their job to turn around and make sure that that employee is doing their time sheet correctly or submitting the information that they're supposed to, or even showing up to work. I mean, it's a district employee. It's not their responsibility to manage that employee. Next. Yeah. So again, we're gonna open it up. Got these two ladies here. I want to try to do something very, very informal. Things get stagnant or whatnot. I'll ask some questions myself, but I was just gonna open it up to the floor and see what conversation ensues. So questions, comments?
Five got one.
I'll stand up.
Many times as an ASC, they're 40 hours a week and we're not. And if you do have a district employee and or any other things that may crop up that you're not supposed to be doing. And sometimes we do it just to help us out because we're not there. There may be a week like today, like this week. You know, I've been up here since Sunday. Not that I'm in the office every week anyway. Our chairman is, but I'm not. But he has been here since Sunday. And then tomorrow I'll be at Appalachian. So there's times that, that supervisors are not available to inspect equipment or read, and I know that's not their job. And our machinery comes to my farm anyway, they want to see it. But there is times that things slip through the crack, you may say, that we would ask them to at least make sure they parked it out there, that it did come back to the office and or things like that, that it may not be under her.
Back that up, we can't hear you.
I'm trying to stay away from that. It may not fall under their criteria of what they're supposed to be doing, but yet we kind of expect it to be done and may get some feedback from that. If that makes sense.
I think the key word there is expect. You know, we are employed to assist the district in matters that are covered under the code. You know, myself, I don't mind helping somebody. I don't mind, you know, but there are things that we actually cannot do within the scope of our jobs and to protect ourselves. I mean, I understand that. Yeah, I can tell you piece of equipment's parked out here. But to actually go out. And I think where most of this comes from is expecting an AS to physically do things with that piece of equipment. That is not covered under our job description. You know, I don't have that problem because we have a district employee that is our equipment OM&R manager, and he works strictly on an hourly wage and only bills for when he works. I mean, he's not a full-time job. He only bills for hours worked. And, you know, you're right. We are a pretty cooperative bunch. But it comes down to the point that of the expect. You know, you are the elected official, we are a state employee. There's things that we cannot do because we aren't covered for the liability part. That's where a lot of that comes in, or that's my opinions. Candace, you all have a work crew.
So my situation is different because I do have a work crew, I do have a crew leader, and I also have a district employee. So I do not inspect the equipment. I will tell you if it's there. I will occasionally, if they're not there, I will go out and help somebody hook it up. but I don't expect it when it comes back. That's why I have a crew leader. So my situation's completely different.
And to be fair and honest, that doesn't happen in our district, but I just throw that out there to hear.
Correct. And, you know, it is a district piece of equipment. You know, if I would say that, yeah, it was all okay, whatever, and then somebody else says, no, it wasn't, that's not going to be put on me. Ultimately, it's your piece of equipment. And either you have an employee that's responsible or a supervisor that is designated to be responsible for that.
Question, maybe a couple. Can you describe what some of your, I guess, biggest beefs with supervisors that ask you to do things that you're really not supposed to be asked to do? And the second part of that is, what, as a supervisor, can we do to make your life a little bit easier?
I think the biggest thing, the biggest issue that I have, and I'm not speaking this is directly to my board, but it's my location. I am in the same building as the association office. I have numerous meetings that are held at my office with various other partnering agencies. The lack of communication on a lot of things. I think it's assumed because I'm in the same building that I know everything that's supposed to be going on back in that conference room. And the next thing I know, I have somebody showing up for a meeting and I had no idea they were supposed to be there. They wrote it on the calendar in the back, but nobody ever physically spoke to me. The communication is a huge, huge thing. I mean, myself, I try to forward emails. Yes, something will fall through the cracks. It happens. We're human. Don't assume that we know everything that's going on. I would rather be asked the question than later for somebody to try to throw me under the bus for something I had no idea was going on. Yes, we are in every aspect. We touch every aspect of everything that comes through a district. But if we don't know that you have a concern or that somebody has questioned you on something and you make an assumption that we knew or that this is what's going on, then it makes everybody look bad. We have to have those lines of communication, and you need to understand that there are constraints within our job description and what we are allowed to do. Granted, I do a lot of things that I probably shouldn't do because I'm a cooperative individual for the most part. But, you know, as long as I feel like it, and then for me and other ASs I've spoken with, I think there's a lot of things that feel like that we are taken advantage of, that some supervisors, they're not treated with respect. You know, and I'll go by the old adage that, you know, you catch more flies with sugar than vinegar, and sometimes there's a lot of vinegar being thrown around. So, you know, I would rather you come directly to me. There is a chain of command if you have a problem. I'll go back to what Mr. Farkas said about hearing things third hand, fourth hand. If you've got a problem with something that an AS is doing, please go to the AS first and do it civilly. Don't fly off. Don't, you know, be angry right off. Let's get to the bottom of it before it becomes a problem. If you don't get any satisfaction out of me or one of my counterparts, you go to Jeremy or Kim. If you don't get any satisfaction after that, you go to Mr. Farkas. Use that chain of command. Don't be going out of here to our partnering agencies and saying, well, they did this, they did that. That seems to be happening a lot. You know, these are just my feelings, but it's the communication issues and not taking advantage of our good nature.
No, you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I've been here, you know, 12 years. I mean, that's how long I've been in the position I'm in. So I've been through a lot of changes. Elk District was the first district you all were talking, the fiscal process that we go through now. Elk District was the guinea pig for that. I was, brought into it with all the changes, so I didn't know any different. But I came from the private sector. My family owned a car dealership for years and years. I did all the accounting. I did all that. To me, the way that this system is done now, the only way somebody is going to get by with taking any money or doing something is if somebody, supervisor or fiscal, has dropped the ball. It's a double, triple check. They've caught things that I've overlooked. I've caught things that they've overlooked. In the LOR process, we're given an LOR quick reference guide when all this is, when the fiscal year starts. It tells us what needs to be submitted, what doesn't. We have to have minutes. We have to have all that's there. And sometimes you forget to send one of those forms. If an LOR is held up, that's sometimes mainly what it is we just need to send one form that we forgot to send in the email. You're attaching so many things in an email, you overlook one. I've seen all these changes, and the changes that they're implementing are not to tie your hands as a board of supervisors. It is to protect everybody and to make sure that everything is above board and that nobody is going to get in any trouble. And my big thing with a mistake is don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. It can all be fixed unless you've stolen money or you've killed somebody. I mean, there's a solution. There's a way to fix everything.
Susie, thank you for all you do for us. You do a great job keeping our paperwork in line, and we appreciate that. I don't know if I missed it, but a lot of people might not know your all's district, so just let them know where you're at. Both of you, that would help.
I'm Susie Steele. I'm with the Elk District. I cover Braxton, Clay, Nicholas, and Webster counties. But I've worked in Mon District. I've worked in Capital District. I've worked in Westbrook District. Tigers Valley. Sorry. So I've been a little bit of everywhere. I see how different things can be within each district because you have different personalities. You have work crew. I don't have a work crew, but you have to learn and adapt. And but policies stay pretty much the same. There may be some little differences in percentages and pay rates and things like that, but we all have to have documentation to pay a bill. You have and it's not trying to make anybody's life harder. It's just we got to cover ourselves, especially when you're dealing with government funding. I feel like I'm just taking over.
I'm Candace Stone, and I'm from Tigers Valley. We cover Barber, Taylor, Tucker, Upshur, and Randolph County. I've also worked in the Mon District in an absence of an AS up there.
And this, I'm not doing this as a joke, but during the COVID, the issue arose when our AS hat was down with the bug. Should supervisors fill in for an AS who is under the weather or has to be off for any reason?
So again, I'm speaking for Tigers Valley. Our district is different because I have a full-time employee in the office. So like I'm not there today, but she's there. So if she's not there, I'm there. So that's a little different for us.
I also have a district employee, but she's a grant position, so she could go away at any time if the grant's not pre-approved. My opinion on that is there are a lot of things that if I were off and a supervisor wanted somebody button the chair to greet the public that comes in, take the paperwork, date stamp it, check the mail, things like that, they can. That is entirely up to an individual district board. I covered in Capital because the AS was off for surgery. So we try to have somebody to go to the other district 2 to 3 days a week, depending on their workload. It's very easy for a supervisor too, and it depends on the access to your building. Some are federal buildings, not everybody has a key, so you have to work it out with their hours. I mean, that's entirely up to the board, especially if it's your individual office that you're paying the Elk District, we rent our office space ourselves. So it's the district can cover, basically do whoever they want in the office whenever they want. Now, my personal office can be locked. But as a supervisor, there's not a whole lot that you would know to do because of the coding of the bills. You can't enter the database. Cannot be entered by anybody except that has authorization. Those kind of things could not be done. It would basically just be there, greet the public, accept paperwork, maybe process some mail, things like that, that a supervisor could do if that's what the board so chooses.
And to follow up on that, I mean, if we have an extended leave situation, I mean, I realize that you're talking like a week at a time. I mean, obviously.
Not even that much.
Yeah, and, even vacations, scheduled vacations, that sort of thing. If we have an extended leave situation that we know that we're gonna be dealing with, we're gonna line up office coverage. It may not be every day, but you will have office coverage.
And another thing you could do, if you do have to have, the office is closed, nobody's in there, I do have a state cell phone. I can forward the phones to it. Or if the supervisor, somebody was gonna be out and wanted the phones forwarded, that's up to the supervisor. If they want the phones forwarded to somebody else, we could forward them to they could be forwarded to the district's, employee. She's a program support specialist is what she is, paid through NACD. But, that's something that really your board has leeway with.
I have a question. This Sam Sheets. What do you consider your duties as far as the newsletters and?
I know we're good, but I know we're not that good.
I don't know, it sounds like I hear someone trying to call in.
Oh, yeah, I thought I was hearing something.
Put the microphone on the black thing.
Yeah.
my
Is there
my
somebody
question
else
is,
that had a question?
what do you consider your responsibilities as far as newsletters and getting information out, say on the ag enhancement program and all that?
All right, I'm gonna pass the mic back to the AS and Sam.
We put those things on, can do any promotion that the district so chooses. My district has a Facebook page. We put new articles in the newspapers. It is basically up to the board to decide how they want to promote their program. Yes, this is a statewide program, but it is modified and adjusted per district. So, you really need to give guidance too. If you only have an AS in your office, you need to let them know that, hey, we want this put in the newspaper for this amount of time to run, so many weeks. Make sure that it gets put on your agency the webpage that's linked to the agency. Ours goes on our Facebook page. Newsletters, it depends on your district. If you want a quarterly newsletter, if you want a monthly newsletter, that's entirely, those are things that you have to set up. And as a supervisor, this is ultimately your board. You need to let them know what you want covered in those news articles or any postings that are put up. We're not mind readers. Yes, we touch every aspect of what goes on, but we cannot act, independently on your all's promotion of your district. We have to have your guidance. We don't mind helping with that. And of course, I have a, program support specialist that helps me with those things. So, that is entirely up to your board to say, hey, we would like to do this every quarter, every month, every 6 months. And, if you're having an issue, I recommend that, if it's something that you're having an issue with, request a meeting with your AS with their supervisor. That way everybody's on the same page and somebody saying, well, I thought they meant this. And that way there's no miscommunication. That is a huge, huge thing. We have to all be on the same page. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
How do you fund your grant writer?
It was funded through an NACD grant.
She is a grant writer. She is a program support specialist through the NACD. Meg Leader is who she speaks with or does all of her things with. If you want to email me or call the office, I can have her get that information to whoever you would want to check on it. Okay, I'll have her send some information because I know she just sent a report in and I think I don't know if the grant period, because she takes care of all that. That is, it pays for her. And then she has also worked into it for a part-time, hoping to get funded this time around, a part-time co-op student for 20 hours a week to bring them in. They're going to help with digitizing files and putting our IDP files in a specific order. They're putting all of our IDP files on to where if our conservation specialist needs them when he's out in the field, he can pull those maps up. That's just busy work. It takes a lot of time. So we have a student, high school student, that we're trying to get. The district has been paying for it themselves, and they're hoping to get that funded in with that grant also.
Hello, I have a question. What do you do when your administrative assistant is taken off? It seems like a lot of time. And then you have to submit your paperwork. It delays your paperwork has delayed paperwork getting processed for 2 weeks. Or you have a question and you pick up a phone and you call your administrative assistant and nobody's on the other end of the line. And I'm talking during business hours. And what is a normal business hours for an administrative assistant?
Each district can set their own business open hours. My district has advertised 8 to 4. The administrative specialist has to work between the core hours of 9 and.
Yeah, normal working hours are 8 to 4 for the agency. But that being said, we have what we call a flex schedule available to our staff. Now, when it comes to the ASs, if they have requested that flex schedule, that is something that will come to the board for their approval and concurrence. Not so much that we're asking your permission, but again, this position works so closely with the conservation districts. Even though it's an agency employee, we want your feedback and we want your buy-in to be able to make those adjustments. I mean, I've got some ASs that are working 7:30 to 3:30. I've got some that are working 7 to 3. I have some that don't come in until 9 and then turn around and work into the later afternoon hours. And again, every one of those situations is taken to the board for their input and concurrence. And we don't argue and fuss and fight over that. If the board decides that, no, our operating hours are 8 to 4, and we're not open to so-and-so coming in at 7:30 and leaving at 3:30, then that option's off the table for our staff. I mean, I hate to be that way with my staff since it is an available option, but at the same time, we work hand in hand with the boards to make sure that we are providing the coverage that you want. Does that answer the question on that?
On that, but like I say, if the administrative assistant's not gonna be there for like a couple of weeks, is there any way the conservation agency can send somebody in to cover a place for the 2 weeks?
Yeah, again, with an extended leave situation, yes, that is something that we can schedule and make sure that we have office coverage. Now, again, it will not be an everyday thing. We will have somebody available to make sure that the bare bones of the operation are covered.
Because, I mean, when your paperwork can't get processed for 2 weeks at a time, and it seems to be right at the end of the month, it causes issues for the supervisor and issues for everybody else.
And when you're talking your paperwork, I'm assuming that you're talking your traveling per diem?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Your traveling per diem will actually go to your bookkeeper as well. So you could have the ability to make sure that that information is making it to your bookkeeper. It's not necessarily the AS's responsibility to make sure that that paperwork makes it to the bookkeeper.
Well, whose responsibility is to make sure that it gets to the bookkeeper?
I'll take it.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I can take it.
We as the ASs, you know, we have to code all the invoices, so yes, they typically go through us. If you have a district employee, you know, they could take them to the bookkeeper also. But if any office that I have covered on an extended period, so you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, you need somebody to cover, all we have to do is get with IT and we know which office we're covering. They automatically copy me on any email that comes into that district. So, you know, there should never be a problem with getting stuff processed because we do so much digitally anymore. And any office that I've covered, I've tried to make set days that I was at that office so the supervisors or the public, or if you're in an FSA, a federal office, that they would know what day I was going to be there. Now, that is ideal world, the way things, so doesn't always happen. You know, emergencies happen, things like that. But when you're covering another office, it is always set up with IT to be copied on any of the emails that come into the district, and also with the financial part of Sage with district financial operations. That the AS for that period of time is granted access to that district Sage to be able to print checks for IDP and take care of contract payment, LOR database. You know, we are granted those accesses. So then, like I said, if it's a problem that you're having in your district, you know, you need to, as a supervisor, step up and call a meeting with your AS and their supervisor. That way, we can all get to the bottom of what's going on.
I mean, I've been elected supervisor for 2 years, and the thing of it is, this seems to be an ongoing problem off and on for the whole 2 years. And I'm not one to call up and pester anybody unnecessarily. I usually only call the AS maybe once, at most twice during a month. But when you got stuff that needs to care of, or you need an answer, I mean, you need somebody where you can get a hold of to give you the answer. That's my main concern.
Well, and, you know, don't be afraid to call us. I mean, that's what we're there for. We are a liaison between, you know, your bookkeeper, the district fiscal and the state. So, you know, you should not be afraid to contact, and if you can't get a hold of your administrative specialist, you know, call Kim or Jeremy, and see what's going on. There may have been an emergency that day. I mean, I don't know what the situation is in your district, but I'm just saying there could be an extenuating circumstance that everybody doesn't know about. You know, we try to keep everybody informed, but things happen. But yeah, do not be afraid to reach out and contact myself, you know, my counterpart or their supervisor.
If I need to, I will call the main office down there. It's like yesterday, I tried to call during business hours. I got transferred to an answering machine and no call back. So, and basically what it was about, I submitted my paperwork for last meeting, which was this last Wednesday, and normally I would see my checks back on Saturday that week. Well, this is going on, and then they never come Saturday, they never come Monday, they never come Tuesday. So I was just simply wanting an answer, was they submitted, and why they may be dragging along this way. I don't know.
Yeah, and I can't answer that for your district.
I know you can't answer that, but I mean, that's why somebody else needs in the office to cover, to submit, you know, to answer stuff like that. And I'm not trying to be a pest, I'm not trying to cause anybody any trouble. It causes me inconvenience.
I understand, and that's your money. You need to get to the bottom of it. But
Yeah.
I would talk to Jeremy or Kim and see what's going on within your office.
Okay. But thank you for your time.
I do know that as a constituent, I have to I do know that the situation that gentleman is talking about, I have called that office as a constituent, trying to get information. I do not have a problem getting a hold of EAS in that office. And I will state that this week, those telephones are out of order. They have been reported in that mill run office, but they are out of order this week.
Yeah. That flips. See, it's not easy.
I just wanted to make a comment concerning the previous gentleman's concern about his traveling per diem. It's actually the district responsibility to process those forms, not the administrative specialist. Our treasurer is the one that actually approves those forms and emails those directly to the accountant who prepares the checks that are approved at the board meeting. So I don't really know why there's an issue.
And and it's different every district. I mean, the pay forms for traveling per diem in policy have to be signed off on by executive committee, which is one of the officers. But I can take them with the rest of the bills too. You know, they'll give them to me and I'll put them in with the regular bills because they typically sign them at board meetings. And there's sometimes I scan them and email them in, but I don't complete them for them. That's the thing.
The supervisor signature, that's hard.
Right. Yeah, but, I mean, that is, it's an individual district's, that is your policy to make. Yeah.
I'd just like to say, I want to brag on Candace a little bit, because she does a really good.
Trained her. She did.
I'm sure that's part of the reason the training. She's not perfect, but none of us are, but I'll tell you, she is a valuable asset to our district. And, you know, there's been discussions all around everything, about whether they should be a district employee. My thoughts are, I'm glad they are where they are, because any problems then Brian's and not ours. But they have access to a lot of databases and information and processes that I'm glad they're doing it. And if you ask your AS to do something and they don't do it, ask them again. You know, my wife asked me sometimes a half a dozen times to do something. And the thing we need to remember, none of us are perfect. And if we just communicate and talk to each other, and if there's an issue, just have a conversation, and 99% of the problems can be worked out at that level. And Jeremy doesn't even have to be involved. He can just keep smoking the bread.
Well, that's what I keep saying, you know, approach the person first, and if you don't get any, I agree with you, Donnie, come to me if I got a problem, and if we don't get it worked out, then we go take the next step. There is a process.
Chain of command, that's what.
I will say this, in our district, the easiest way for them to communicate with me is through an email. And then if I don't do something, they have that email to send on to Jeremy and say, hey, I've asked her to do this 6 times and she didn't do it. So that is one of the easiest ways to track to make sure that your AS is doing what they're supposed to do, is send it to them in an email. Then you have proof that you've asked. And then if it's still not done and you've asked again, then you can take in whoever else you need to after that.
All else spells.
Donnie, they want to know if your wife sends you an email to track you.
Got a tracking device installed. But you know, that's the thing. If
if it's important, yes, you can call us and say, hey, do this, can you do this, can you do that? I'd like to have this, have that. And if you have that ability to follow it up with an email, so it is in writing, that's the best way to cover everybody. Have that documentation. You know, that is one thing that we all try to do.
A lynch mob?
One's going twice.
Oh,
Well, it says sold. I think everybody's just burned up.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all.
Aren't you glad they put those air conditioners in here?
yeah, it sure helps.
Yeah.
Days ago would have been nicer.
You know, Danny up here is wearing shorts, so maybe we should have all worn shorts up here. Anyway, with that, that concludes the Conservation Agency portion of this training. And I thank you all for your attendance. I thank you all for your excellent questions, and I hope that you are then able to go back into your districts and share this information with those folks who are not able to attend. It is important that, you know, as the representatives who come to these trainings, that you go back and deliver the messages to your districts and put training as at least a part of your agenda so you understand what needs to be done. Yeah. We need a microphone.
Well, you might be able to hear, when will the training that we've had, supposedly recorded, I guess, be available for other supervisors to look at?
The question was, the information that has been presented on the PowerPoints and through the training, when will that be available? It is my understanding, and Chris can correct
I'm here.
me, right there.
I'm hoping by the end of next week, I'll have it ready and go.
Right, and what we will do is if you will put a SharePoint link to the AS that she will then be able to access and make available to the district.
And the videos will be on YouTube. I like private
Videos,
YouTube.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be on YouTube?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're not publicly searchable. You gotta know it's like.
Okay.
Well, that don't make you mad. Brian, I just want to say thank you to you, Heather, and to the staff for putting together an excellent and very informative meeting. Although the brain can only absorb what the butt can endure.
Well, guess what? I hope your butt can still endure it because now I'm turning it over to Heather to take us back to the barn.
We need to say, Brian, you're a great cook for lunch.
Well, that's Belinda back there. No, that's, thank Belinda. And actually, at this point, I would like to give an applause to all of my conservation agency staff that came up here and delivered these presentations. So on behalf of the conservation agency, thank you all very much. Okay.
All right, so in case you guys wanted to know how much Brian likes me, number one, he put me dead last on the very last day after lunch. And number two, he acted like you guys were leaving and then said, just kidding. So I officially see where I rank in with Brian. Yeah, it's a partnership, all right, yeah. Takes two, right, to tango. So I'm gonna wrap this up really quickly, in appreciation of everybody's time. I'm headed to Charleston before I go home to Jefferson County. So I want to get on the road and get everything packed up as well. So the first thing I'm going to cover is your supervisor handbook. So this is going to go over effective boards and running an effective board, being an effective board, and then also your supervisor handbook.
It's floating around here somewhere.
So, with your supervisor handbook, if you're a new supervisor, it's, I believe it might look a little different from the old one. There's some tabs and that kind of thing. So it's going to give you, the history of conservation districts. It's going to give you the purpose of the conservation districts, and it's also a reference guide. Yes, it's 100 couple pages long, but I task each of you to actually read your supervisory handbooks. I have talked with supervisors. They've asked questions. I point them to the page in their supervisory handbook, and I said, have you read this part? Well, I've never even opened it. Again, your responsibilities, okay? That is literally your role as a supervisor, is to be informed.
There you go.
Okay, so please make sure you at least glance through it and are familiar with at least what the pages look like, okay? So you want to make sure that you do keep it with you. You can tab different sections with either like the write-on tabs for papers or even sticky notes. And again, actually read what that handbook says. And again, this just kind of goes over everything that's included in that handbook. There's also some basic parliamentary procedure guidance in there. There's an overview of officer positions. And I do know one of the main requests was to have an overview of officer positions, especially with that treasurer position. But please look at that handbook. It will go over the basics. And I think the agency did a good job of all the financial aspects to kind of get treasurers started. I'm not going to read this mission statement to you. You've heard it a couple times, but note the bolded words that I went through and highlighted that I think are important in going along with that mission statement. And again, we've already gone over the history, and then we are where we are right now. So getting into effective boards, one of the things I always, when I try to call into meetings, is an agreement will come up, a contract will come up, and everybody says, what's this? That is not the time to ask, what's this? You are given your packet a week, 2 weeks, even a couple of days before the board meeting. If you've got a question and you don't know what this contract is even for, call up your AS, call up your conservation specialist and ask what it's about. It's a leadership quality of being a supervisor. Ask questions. Also be active. Identify your resource needs like we did with the funding request to the Conservation Agency. Come up with strategic plans and be involved in that process. And again, knowing and understanding your laws, like Bob Buchanan said earlier, know that state code forward and backward. So to be on an effective board, you need to encourage new cooperator participation. We can all stay the same with the same number of cooperators, or we continue to grow to show, again, the resource needs that our state is needing. Support your associate supervisors and recruit those associate supervisors. And then make sure that your programs are reaching everyone. We tend to focus on different focus groups that we're interested on. It's human nature. We don't think about somebody that maybe isn't in our social group, okay? Think about those that we're not reaching. And especially if you're looking for grants, they are forcing you to look for those people that you aren't reaching. You're gonna have to really dig deep, drive around your community even, go on a road you haven't been on before, and look and see what's around you. Participate in your budget development. Do not say, if something listed 22 to 23, do not say 23 to 24, okay? Go through and look at what your budget items are and what needs to be fixed. If you haven't done a workshop in 7 years, do you think on year 8 you're going to do the workshop? Probably not, okay? So go through and actually see what's in your budget and what you are doing in your plan of work. And again, work with your fellow board members. And when you're developing programs or thinking about enhancement projects, think about things with long-term benefits, something that's going to be able to stick around and help somebody 10 years down the road. And stay on point. In your meeting, and this is one of the main reasons why you don't have partner agencies attending your meetings, is because you guys start rambling, okay? If you giggle, y'all do it, okay? Stay on point, and that says we call this meeting to discuss critical issues. So let's spend our time discussing something completely unrelated, okay? I love learning about what my neighbor's corn yield is, because I'm gonna slightly compare it to mine, or what bull you used that year, okay? But that does not have a thing to do, I can guarantee you, it does not have anything to do with what's on your agenda, okay? Stay on point. For leadership qualities, become the kind of leader that people would follow voluntarily, even if you had no title or position. Meaning, even if you were not a conservation district supervisor and had that title behind your name, be that kind of leader that will be a conservation leader in your county. So there's just a list of leadership qualities. Again, I'm not going to go over those. They are, again, listed in your supervisor handbook. And then I thought this was good as I was looking up some quotes, and Woody Williams happened to come up. No matter how good the team or how efficient the methodology, if we're not solving the right problem, the project fails. You're here to solve the right problems for conservation, okay? Work together to make sure that project succeeds. So for officer duties, just really quickly, the chair, you're going to help develop your monthly agenda with your AS and with your secretary. That's stated in the handbook. Okay, so when you are a chairperson, and I've heard it many times, what's this on the agenda? As the chair, should not be saying those words, okay? Because you should know what's on your agenda. Of course, you're going to preside over the board, and you're going to essentially be the spokesperson for your district. Some of your districts might have an outreach specialist, which is fine. But you are kind of the main point of contact, you know, with the news or journalism, they're coming through to do an interview. You are that kind of main point and contact for your district. And again, you're going to perform other duties and know your Robert's Rules of Order. The vice chair, you're basically president number 2 in case anything happens. You've got to know everything. Your secretary. Now, I know most districts, if any, the secretary, as a supervisor, probably does not take the board minutes. If you want to be an A-game, really good secretary for your district, help out with the minutes. And then, of course, help maintain memberships and committees and everything else. And as a secretary, it's really good to know your Robert's Rules of Orders, especially concerning motions. Because when you guys start calling for question and then it's just automatically voted upon, which is not how it's supposed to go, and it irks me every time, or you're amending something, you have to be able to vote on the amendments, and then you have to go back and vote on that new full motion, okay? So being a secretary and knowing Robert's Rules of Order is going to help you be a better secretary. And then the treasurer. You guys do a whole lot that I don't even know what all you guys have to accomplish. But just knowing the bank statements, go to your bank. The bank that you bank with the district should know who you are. Not just the AS, they should know who you are when you walk through that door. And this is just a kind of a breakdown that I pulled offline of what roles and responsibilities are. Depending on what organization you're with, some organizations put the chair or the president as a standing member on all committees. Others use the vice chair as that standing person on all committees. That was the only kind of real difference that I saw with this that might be a little different with you guys. So to have effective meetings, start on time. I've been in plenty of, virtual meetings where it's 25 minutes and the meeting still isn't started on time. And it's usually because they're still waiting on a supervisor. If you're in that time of year where you're in the hayfield, you've got snow or whatever, and you're not sure if you're going to have a quorum, call around and make sure everybody's there. Because if you're not having a quorum, there's no point in having the meeting. Go ahead and get that meeting rescheduled because you cannot conduct official business anyway without your quorum. Do not open your packet as you walk through that door. If you're going to, please open it in your car before you open that door handle. And also read the minutes before, again, that comes with opening that board packet. Read the minutes before it's called upon for a motion, because then everybody's trying to thumb through the minutes or acting like they're going to read the minutes because they're just waiting on somebody else to call for the motion. And again, stay on point. Don't have side conversations during the meeting, because let me tell you what, those little things, they pick up a lot, okay? They pick up a lot. Contribute to discussion as well. They even know when they're talking to them. So, contribute to discussion when the discussion is happening and not 2 weeks later when you're still belaboring a point that could have been brought up during that board meeting and discussed with everybody. And do remember that these are open meetings conducting official business. So make sure that you're announcing your meetings, that follow the proper protocol. And remember that these are official meetings. You are elected officials. Be mindful of your discussions. Respect each other, including everybody's time, everybody's diversity, and everybody's opinion. So I thought this quote was kind of funny. All is fair in love and war and parliamentary procedure. Because if you've ever been involved in parliamentary procedure, it can get pretty interesting. I suggest your local FFA chapter or your 4-H group, they have Parley Pro teams, and they will absolutely floor you in their ability to run a meeting. So have them in as a guest speaker and have them do a Parley Pro demonstration. These are the latest books of Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, so you've got the end brief, which is that bright yellow book. It's just kind of a quick reference guide. And then you have the full-blown Robert's Rules of Order, which is in the 12th edition, okay? So 12 times this book has been revised to update information. Know your district policy to be able to have effective meetings that people want to come to. Again, keeping in mind of your partners that don't typically come to all of your meetings. And again, don't be afraid of Parley Pro, and have somebody local come in and give a demonstration. If you have questions, we just had the AS panel. I thought they did a great job. Don't be afraid to reach out to your AS, because again, a lot of these things do revolve around your AS. They are a very, very important job in your district. Reach out to other supervisors, especially if you're a new supervisor. Ask the questions, because they probably had the same questions when they first started. Even if they've been here 15 or 20 years, they had day one and year one too, okay? They started out just the same as you did. And don't be afraid to reach out to the association. Reach out to me, call me, email me, and we can try to figure it out.
After midnight?
I may answer after midnight, but I do not like 5 a.m. phone calls. I will be honest with you. I've had it happen. I'm a little cranky. Or I might just let it ring and go to voicemail. So that is all that I have. I thank you for coming. Let me know if you have questions. I think Donnie is going to officially wrap us up. Hold on.
Just real quick.
John.
I gotta get our Superman cake with you.
Just a real quick.
Hold on, someone's got a
Is
question.
our handbook online by chance, or is it?
The handbook is online. Is the updated handbook going to be placed online? Yes.
You just sent the check with us. It'd be a lot easier that way
Yes.
than I have.
So if you go on the agency webpage under supervisor information, there is a direct link to the supervisor handbook.
I will try.
Any other questions? All right, we'll hand it over to Donnie.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone that stayed for the duration. And I think Brian's gonna put a little something extra in the next paycheck. So that'll remain to be seen, but anyway. Still put some biochar. But anyway, thanks for coming, thanks for all the participation, thanks for everyone that works to make this organization put together. And I'm reminded of the pastor asked this old deacon that dismiss in prayer, and he said, Lord, you know, I don't like fire, and he said, Lord, you know, I don't like buttermilk, and Lord, you know, I don't like salt. He went on, and preacher was wondering where he's going, but he said, I sure do love biscuits. So he didn't necessarily like all the ingredients, but he liked the end result, and that's kind of the way we are. We're like a melting pot. We may not always agree on everything. We may have differing opinions, but if we remember that we're here for the good of the cause and not the good of our cause. And it's always good to have dialogue. It's good to have disagreements. It's good to agree to disagree, because that's how we work things out. So I'm very appreciative, and Wayne has made great strides with this organization during his regime. And as Jim pointed out, there's a new regime, but we're going to continue down the path that Wayne has started us down. And thank everyone for your cooperation. Have a good, safe trip home, and we'll see you the next time around. We're adjourned.